Hey guys, welcome to the video. In this one, we're going to take a look at general inventory management. And what I mean by that is when we list these items onto our store, what we want to have the ability to do is remove those in a way that we are maximizing our seller limits, we're maximizing our sale freaks limits, and we're not keeping a lot of what I would call dead wood on our account. So those are the items that aren't selling, they're not selling on your store, therefore they're taking up space and they're dragging the sell-through rate of your store down. So ultimately what we want to do is we want to have as high a success rate and the highest sell-through rate as physically possible as our stores grow. There's a couple of different ways that I do this in trimming the items down. I'm going to show you those in the video. This is purely sort of my opinion on it. Some people will do it slightly differently. Everything doesn't need to be done to the exact letter. We'll be going through some time frames and things. You may want to tweak those around to suit yourselves. But all in all, if you do these things similar to what I'm doing them, then you will have a higher success rate on your eBay store. There'll be less, like I say, dead wood on that store, and you'll be giving yourself some nice extra space to list some fresh products in order to try and bring that sell-through rate up. So we'll crack on. So if we go to salefreaks.com on our console and then click on items, it'll bring up this page just as I'm showing you here. And then what we want to do is click on advanced. This will give us a nice advanced filter to work with and enable us to narrow down those items that we want to potentially remove from our stores. So what we can do first of all is we can select which account we want to look at. Okay, so as you can see, the default here, it will select all of the accounts. We only want to look at the accounts one by one, and why I look at them one by one is because I like to control how many items we're removing from a specific store, so that then I can actually replace those items or add more than what I've removed. Okay, if we do all of the accounts at once, it's going to be very difficult to know, especially if we're bulk removing items, how many are removed from each store. So I like to do it separately, and then I can add the listings separately, the fresh listings, onto that specific store. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, I'm going to uncheck all, and then I'm going to click one of the stores to look at. Now the main thing is to have your orders boxes complete. So for me, we're going to have a look at 0 to 0 orders. This means that the items have not sold. Okay. Other people will look at the unsold time range. So for example, they could put in that the items unsold between today and say 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, something like that. For me, I like to keep anything that has got a sales history. Even if it's only sold once, it might sell again. eBay like items on your store with a sales history, therefore I just leave them be. Now if you're really struggling and the item hasn't sold for a long time, or maybe it's a seasonal item, you might want to remove those items, that's fine. But for bulk removal, I'm just looking at 0 to 0. Now the next thing I want to look at is the creation time. Okay, so this determines how long it's been on your store for. So the default setting is today, since 30 days ago. So this basically means it's been listed either today or going back 30 days. Okay, now those are the freshest items on your store. So what I would look at is something closer to, on an established store, I might look at something close to 55 days. So the items had at least 2 months run out, and I'll look at 365 being the max that we can look at. So anything that's been on there over 365 days and hasn't sold, there's definitely going to be problems there. They're definitely going to be stale items. So there should never be anything that old that hasn't sold on your store. So if I put in 55 days, that basically means that they're due to relist on eBay after the 60 days. And it also means that I don't have to do this every day. If I do this, 2-3 times a week, I'm catching everything that's due to end or due to be relisted that's already been listed on the store for 2 months. So hopefully that makes sense. So this figure doesn't have to be exact. It can be 57 days, it can be 56 days, whatever. I like 55 days. And then I'm catching everything if I do this, minimum two times a week. So once we have those boxes complete, very straightforward, just those two I need. I can also save this filter so that I don't need to click these buttons again in future. So I can say 55 days old, no sales, for example, and I can just click go, and that'll save. So the next time you go in there, you can just click load the filter up. It'll load the information, just check everything's correct. Check the account, make sure that you're looking at the correct account. The filter is only for the settings, it's not for the account, so you'll have to go in and select whatever eBay account you want to look at, and then click on view items. Just takes a couple of seconds to load those items up. And as you can see, I have 14 items that are coming up to 2 months old and have 0 sales. So what I would normally do is I would normally just bulk remove these. Now, as a general rule of thumb, I don't like removing anything more than sort of 5% of my overall total store listings in one time. So this particular store has about 800 items, I believe. So removing 14 in one go is absolutely fine. You know, I'm not too worried about that. And the reason why we don't want to remove too many is that obviously eBay like to see consistency, they like to see growth, they like to see fresh items being added to your store. So if you're removing a ton at once, it can sort of negatively affect the algorithm and the traction of the overall store, especially if you're not replacing those items. So if you're in a growth phase of your store and you're still trying to reach your potentials of a feature store or reach your seller limits or something like this, if you remove 14, as a general rule of thumb, again, this is just my opinion, I like to add maybe 50% more than what I'm removing. So if I'm removing about 14 items, I want to list about 21 items, 21 items, 25 items, something like that, so that the store still sees growth. Now, if I am sitting on 1,000 items on that store, 1,500 items or whatever, wherever I'm comfortable with and wherever I want to grow the store to, if I'm at that number, I'll simply remove these 14 and then I'll replace with another 14 items and just keep the consistency and keep the size of the store the same, if I'm just intended to keep it running the same size. So how do I quickly remove these items? All I need to do is click on the little box over here on the left hand side in the top left above the items, and then click on all. This will select all of the items, and then I can just go up to the bulk actions above, type in the box remove, and I'm just going to type in there no sales so that I can reference that in my bulk actions. It doesn't matter what you put in here. As you can see down below, I've removed some for OOS, which is out of stock. So if I have a look back and there's items removed, I can see they've been removed. No sales. Okay, so I'm just going to click on remove, and you should see then coming up the description, you can see that the progress is new, and then it'll change to in progress. Once that's complete, it'll then change to done. Okay, now like I said, if I go back into the advanced filter, for me on a more established store, I like to give things 55 days. If you're looking to build sort of, if you're on a like 250 item, 500 item store, maybe you're reaching your seller limits, or you feel that you're not building enough traction, or your success on the store isn't where it needs to be, you might give things less time. So you might want to actually look at items that are around 27 days old, so they've been almost listed for a month, and then you can remove those items. Now the other option here, instead of using 365 days, you could actually use 30 days. So why would I do that? Okay, so basically if the item is 31 days old or 32 days old, then you've already paid for it to be back in your store, whether that be via listing fee or whether that be taking up one of the free listings that you have on your package or on your eBay account. So if it's been listed for 31 days, you may as well keep it on there until it hits that 55 days or 56 days or whatever. Now, if you want to do a little tidy up of those items that are not selling within that period, this is a good way to do it. So 27 to 30 days old with 0 sales. And this should bring us up anything that's listed within that period and due to relist. So I've got 25 items here, some of them due to end. very soon, or relist should I say. When anything gets to 30 days on eBay as a buy now, I'm saying ended, but what actually happens is it'll just automatically get relisted onto your store. So I could choose to remove these if I want, especially if I was getting tight for space on the store, for example, or I was reaching my seller limits and I had like lots of nicely new researched items to add onto my store. I could remove these. For this particular account, I'm happy enough to let these ones run. That's no issues, but if you're, like I say, just mentioned previously, if you want to remove them, you can use the same action as we did before. So just going to reset the filter, and then I'm going to show you something else. So just click on advanced again, make sure it's reset, select the store that we want to look at, and then this time we're going to look at out of stock. Okay, so we're going to look at out of stock items, and again, very, very important, out of stock items that haven't sold. Because if they've sold and they've got good selling history, we probably just want to wait for those to come back into stock. Now, if you notice that the item's been out of stock for a long time, on the next time we search this, or if you notice it further down the line, it never comes back into stock, at that point, even if it's had sales, you could probably just remove it. But for this simple demo, we're just going to look at out of stock with 0 orders. Okay, and then we're just going to click on view items. Again, just take a couple of seconds to load up. Okay, so we can see in this particular store, actually, it's got 31 items that are out of stock, and they're actually all inactive. So most of the time when it's got no sales and it's out of stock and it's inactive, it means that it's maybe, if it was still active, it means that it's maybe just recently gone out of stock, or it's not fully just went inactive yet. But these look to be pretty dead items. See, we've got 3 pages of these here. If we change that to 100, we can see all of those items that are out of stock. Now, what I would tend to do is I would tend to actually look at the items and just make sure that the item actually is out of stock. We haven't missed something. For example, on Sale Freaks, where the item just hasn't been placed back into stock. So we just want to check through these. So this one, as you can see, it's in stock, but it's actually not an Amazon Prime item, so that's why it's out of stock. So if you're only selling Prime items, Sale Freaks will put this particular item out of stock. So what you can do is you can go through one by one and just check these off, and then just remove them as you see fit, or check them all off and remove them all in bulk as above, just like this one's doing. So with this one, I'm just going to put OOS, which again is out of stock. So obviously if an item's out of stock and it's not selling, it's not likely to sell because it's out of stock, and therefore it is wasting space in your store. Okay, so it is a very good idea to get rid of these items. Now, I'm not going to get rid of them on the video because I've not individually checked all of them. Some people just do remove the items altogether, without checking them one by one, but you could be getting rid of something that is in stock. Now, the good thing is, even if you do get rid of all of these, they're items that haven't sold previously anyway, so even if they are by chance in stock, the likelihood of them selling is probably going to be very, 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 very slight chance anyway. I mean, most of these items, as you can see, listed for 49 days, 38 days. So you're probably not going to do a lot of harm by removing them anyway. But personally, I just prefer to check just to make sure. Okay, once you're done, you would just click on remove as normal. So hopefully that's been helpful. That's been a good way to see what items I would be removing from my store. Like I say, I would do this on a maybe two or three times a week basis, just to make sure everything's cleaned up. Just a bit of a recap. You always want to give things at least 30 days, sometimes 60 days. You could also look at maybe removing items that are lower priced within the first 30 days, and then maybe leaving the higher tickets on there because they do tend to take a little bit longer to sell. On a non-API, non-flagged store, really 60 days is the longest period I'll let something sit without it being sold. With the eBay algorithm, every day that it doesn't sell, it generally has less chance of selling. Okay, with the out of stocks, just make sure that we're looking at 0 to 0 orders again. We don't want something removed that's your best seller and it's only out of stock temporarily because Sale Freaks hasn't put it back into stock, or it's just temporarily out of stock on Amazon. So we want to make sure that we're not removing those hot sellers. Always just make sure that you're checking the account that you're removing items from. We don't want to bulk remove from all of our accounts. For example, if you're running multiple accounts, And again, as a general rule of thumb, try not to remove more than 5% of your store at a time. So if the result brings up more than 5%, what you maybe want to do is just not bulk remove all, but pick and choose which ones you're going to remove, and then remove the other ones the following day or the day after that. Then when you're adding items back on, if you're in a growth phase, you want to add on, if you can, 50% more than what you're removing. So remove 10, add 15, for example. If you're just in a sideways phase, for want of a better term, you don't want to grow the store anymore, you're at your limits, then you would just remove and replace with the same amount of items. So hopefully that all makes sense. Hopefully you get some knowledge out of that, and you get some success from doing the same as that. And I will catch you in the next video. Thanks guys. Bye bye.